and CEO of Square Circle. At Square Circle, we made a conscious decision to help organizations focus on belonging in the workplace.
Hi, I'm Robin Eckersley. I'm Chief Learning Officer at Square Circle, and my role is about understanding and designing solutions that effectively develop and support employees holistically as human beings first, so that they can then be authentically present, engaged, and committed to their personal journeys.
So today we're thrilled to bring to you the Square Circle Belong series, where we are in conversation with thought leaders and pioneers in the areas of diversity, inclusion, belonging, and social justice from all over the world. Today, I'm so excited for you all to listen to a very special guest all the way from Chennai, India, Neelam Jain. So let me tell you a little bit about Neelam. So Neelam is a social entrepreneur who envisions building and living in an inclusive society. In 2017, she quit her job at Goldman Sachs and founded PeriFerry, a social enterprise that empowers the Indian transgender community through employment, entrepreneurship, and upskilling opportunities. As an advocate for the LGBTQI plus communities and a TEDx speaker, her work has amassed a wealth of accolades, such as CII's Most Innovative Startup, JITO London's Best Startup Award. She was honored by Indian Express as South India's most vibrant young entrepreneur, and she's represented India's leading social enterprises at the Global Entrepreneurship Summit and much more. And did I mention that Neelam's only 25 years young? Neelam, thank you so much for being here today. We are so excited to have this conversation with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Seema. Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you, Robin, for hosting me today. It's a very, I think I'm a little bit more modest than the introduction here, but I'll accept it. Thank you so much. And I really look forward to the conversation. I hope that my insights can really make a difference. And if there's something that people can take away and apply in their lives, then nothing like it. And that's the entire purpose of this interview.
Absolutely. So Neelam, let's rewind and start from the beginning. How did all this begin? Tell us a little bit more about the origin story of your organization, and what was the fuel that ignited such a big step? You had a corporate job and you left it all to start something where, you had to do everything from scratch. So what was it that made you take this step?
Yeah. So firstly, I strongly believe that it comes or it runs in the family itself. My brother, my dad, my sister, all of them have been entrepreneurs, and all of them have always pursued doing things on their own, building things that they feel really passionate about. So I think that was for me, a thing that I saw from my childhood. But more so, what really pushed me to really pursue social entrepreneurship and pursue employment for transgender people is in my previous job at Goldman Sachs, where I was working before this. I had the opportunity of being a part of their LGBT network, interacting with folks from the community and understanding their journeys firsthand. And I think that made all the difference, because I don't know any other place where I actually would have gotten access to people, meeting transgender people, not at signals, but in the office, talking to them just like anybody else. That made a big difference, and that's where I understood that there's a real challenge in trans community finding access to jobs. So that led me to pitching for a project in Goldman, saying that we should hire transgender people, and that eventually led me to thinking, okay, you know what? If I'm so passionate about it, and if I'm thinking about pitching this in a financial services company, why don't I just go back and start this on my own? So it took me a little while, but then I quit my job. I came back to my hometown and started this from the scratch. I had absolutely no idea if this was going to work out. I had no idea if this is even going to turn into an organization, or if it's just going to remain a hobby, or what's even going to happen with it. I just thought, okay, it's the right thing to do. And I felt really passionate about it, so I just went all in. And yeah. that's what happened.
Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that with us. So I understand that the work that you and your colleagues do through your organization has really intensified since COVID-19 has swept through. And I'm sure it's not just had an effect on your work schedule, but maybe your emotional and mental space as well. So before we move over more into the business side of things, how are you doing? And is there anything specific that you're doing to manage your own well-being on a day-to-day basis?
Sure, thanks, Robin. I think it's a very important question to ask. And to be honest, just to tell you all what happened, I ran for the call 45 minutes late, and that's again one of the things that's really bothering most of us. Our schedules are really messed up. We're managing two full-time jobs. We're managing our homes. We're managing our work, and there's an additional challenge also that we're looking at. So really, our personal well-being is definitely taking a toll. The way that we're handling is by just communicating as much as we can, and probably even over communicating with my colleagues. And obviously with my partner and the organization itself, there's a lot that we're communicating, a lot that we're sharing, both in personal and professional space. Just even letting out the frustration, because otherwise it will show up on your work, and we can't let that happen at this point. So I don't know any other way. I feel like I have great colleagues who also end up being my great friends. So I have that boundary and that space to really share, how we're all doing, and actually even help each other with our tasks, with our to-dos, so that, the day that I'm not feeling better, someone else can take it in, and somebody else can, we can keep filling in for each other.
I love that. So it sounds like, additional communication, even potentially, at the risk of over communication, but also, also it sounds like that you're mitigating the potential risk of bottlenecking, so that if someone is pulled away or they need to take care of something, then someone else can run and carry the ball forward still. Brilliant. I'm really happy to hear that for you. So let's set the stage for our conversation. The trans community is a highly stigmatized one, unfortunately, and it's easy to come up with blanket assumptions and labels. So what's really important for our viewers to know about the trans community in India?
So in India specifically, when we talk about the transgender community, they're ideally viewed as folks who are involved in begging, or they're commercial sex workers. That's the blanket assumption that most people, most organizations would have, because honestly, that's all that they get to see as well. But the trans community is not just that. And there is a lot more to a person, even if they're involved, even if they're a sex worker, and even if they're involved in any sort of commercial begging. There's a lot more layers to that person itself. And also there are transgender people who don't involve themselves in begging or sex work. They probably live with their families, they're probably supported. They also work in pretty big positions in various companies. So the trans community is as diverse as it can get. So it's very important, firstly, for us to open up the assumptions that we may have, and really just free ourselves from those stereotypes and those biases, and say, yeah, I think there's a lot more about this community that I don't know. So let's reach out to someone who does, and let's try and understand more from them, because there's a wealth of things and knowledge about the community that people need to be aware of. And only then can they empathize, and only then can they see them as a person that they can work shoulder to shoulder with, and not someone that they're helping for charity.
That's thank you for saying that out loud, Neelam, because I think just making sure that again, understanding that there are just such a diverse spectrum of people in the trans community, and people don't make these assumptions. I think that's just important to say it out loud. I know that often when you reach out to this community, that's probably a huge part of your work. There's a level of trust that you need to build. There's a level of respect in order for them to be able to come and work with your team and work with your organization. I'm curious about how you've been able to continue, let's say, to build this trusting relationship, especially during the time of COVID-19. Are you seeing, for example, what are you seeing? I don't want to again make assumptions, but I'd love to hear
Yeah.
your thoughts around that.
Yeah. So I just want to go back a little bit, and I just want to tell our audience that building trust with any sort of a marginalized community is extremely difficult because there's so much of, you can probably say, trauma, mistrust, so many false promises given to the community that, that there is a point at which they don't believe people like me or people or organizations saying that, hey, I will get you a job anymore. So there is, I remember when we started off about 3 years ago, the biggest challenge that we had was building sort of a reputation with the community, building that sense of trust. And it took us over a year and a half just to prove the community that here we're here and we mean good and we are just here because we want to create genuine positive impact and nothing else. So that took a lot of time, and so would be the case for organizations who really want to make a difference to various marginalized communities. Building that trust takes time. um, in this time of COVID, I feel like the community is in an extremely vulnerable state. So, our relief efforts are, we're continuing to provide ration materials, which is food supplies, essential food supplies, medical supplies to people who are probably HIV affected and older people who may be cancer and other patients. So, that's again, we're not doing this to build the trust, but again, we see this as a commitment. We're working for a community to provide jobs, and if the community has responded so well, and if the community has trusted you so much over the years, in times of distress, you don't leave them alone, and you do whatever you can in your capacity. So, although we're not an NGO, we believe that we have the contacts, we have the resources in place to help the community even now. So we're just utilizing that and ensuring that these basic relief materials reach them day in and out.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's pretty key what you said, Neelam, which is, it's all well and good to talk the big talk when everything is going well, saying, you're a
Yeah.
champion, you're doing this, you're doing that. But what you do during these times is truly telling of your organization. And thank you for doing what you're doing. I'm sure the community stands by you 100%. Um, I want to anchor back a little bit on this value of belonging. I think what you've done so brilliantly with the community is you've helped them feel like they belong with you, with your PeriFerry team. They know they can trust you. I want to explore the other side of that, which is with organizations, because let's say once you place them, right? Once you place this community, wherever, whatever organization it is, how do you make sure that they continue to feel like they belong and they're not just a statistic, just not a diversity statistic or a checkbox that the company has, just gotten for, by doing this work?
Yeah. I think that's honestly one of the most difficult things to do. And it's not just for the transgender community itself, even for just anybody else, cisgender, heterosexual people, being in a workplace, feeling like they belong, and the company feeling like we've invested in the right person is extremely difficult. But there are a couple of things that we do to ensure that we're mitigating this gap as much as possible. So both for organizations and for the community, we ensure that there is very deep level of sensitization that is done before they meet each other. In a very in a not so professional quote manner, I can say it's like a marriage, and it's a marriage between the company and the person who are going to meet each other, and it's a typical Indian arranged marriage. So you have to ensure that both the parties really, really understand each other even before they meet, and their environment is best suited for each other as well. And you also need to choose the right organization for the right person. So all of those things go into play. We ensure that the co-workers are sensitized. Uh, it, it 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 shouldn't just become a superficial level of sensitization, but it should be really deep rooted, where they feel like it's not just about being nice to this person, but it's also making them feel belong. It's not skipping those lunches with them and just working with them alone. So, you uh, ensuring that there is no sort of a personal bias coming in is very important. And at the same point, we also try and encourage our candidates, saying that you're in an equal level playing field, and you really have to make a great career for yourself. This wasn't just a tick mark for you to get a job, but this is the beginning for a great career for yourself. So that aspires them to do much better than most of their co-workers also do. And I feel that that makes all the difference, because people around see them work really hard, see them being extremely loyal, and a person who has not been given opportunities before does all of that, then they really win the trust and the loyalty of the organization as well. So it's really a lot of effort on both the ends to make each other feel belong. I think the co-workers and the company itself should feel belong with that person as well.
And that speaks so wonderfully into what we say, it takes two hands to clap, right? You want to place an empowered individual in an empowered context. So I think that's something brilliant that you're doing. And this is also a good segue for you to tell us a little bit more, Neelam, about all the programs and initiatives that you're supporting at PeriFerry. And I'm curious to know the impact of these. I'm also curious to know, if you don't mind sharing, any mistakes or anything you wish you had done differently, because I feel those learning and teaching moments are so much more profound in a way to sort of getting to the point where now you're doing everything correctly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, but we're not doing everything correct even now. So we're still making a lot of mistakes, but that's okay. So I'll answer the first one first, which is what are the programs and plans in place. So Periphery as an organization, our core focus has been creating employment opportunities. So obviously recruitment is our backbone, and ensuring that any candidate, any person from the trans community, whether they're educated, not educated, qualified, have a career break, it doesn't matter. As long as you show the intent to work, our job is to ensure that you're ready for your job. So we do that, and in order to ensure that they're ready, um, we have our training plans and training programs in place. One that is our flagship program is called Revive. It's our residential training program for the transgender community. So it's 1 month of training with other peers. We invite about 40 to 50 people, train them over a month in our own residence, and all the services are provided absolutely free of cost for the trans persons. On the other hand, for the companies, we massively engage in creating a great inclusive environment through our workshops, through our events, through our carnivals. A lot of that has changed right now, because I don't think for the next couple of months or even now we can engage in that. So we're slowly shifting them online. We're seeing how we can create gamified learning solutions online and create a sense of environment for the teams to learn about LGBT in a much more fun and interesting manner. So yeah, just recruitment, training programs for the community, Periphery Sparks, which is our LGBT sensitization environment plans. That's that. Some of the mistakes that we've been making or that we have made, I think these things we can just tackle on our own, and that we may not, or that we may not need too many NGOs or CBOs involved in this, but that was extremely wrong, and it may have also come from the place of, hey, I know this, I think I can do it. A little bit of that ego as well. It didn't it didn't do very well for us, but we realized it early on that we need really good partnerships, and we need ground level NGOs. We need organizations who've been in this space for 30, 40, 50 years and have been doing massive work. So I think building good partnerships is important because you can't solve all the problems alone, and you need the right people in place. Another thing that we realized is ensuring that our candidates are 99% of them trained. Initially, our process was just to identify a candidate, screen them, and match them to a certain job. But we understood that the community came from variety of experiences, and that all had to be sort of neutralized before we send them into a workplace. So a form of counseling, even if it's not proper training, became absolutely important. And the placements we did before that didn't really work out well. um, yeah, so I think even now we're making mistakes. It's just that I'll probably know about 6 months from now. So yeah.
That's great. I love how honest you are about the work that you're doing and how, it is imperfect, but it is good work and that you are making a difference. And it sounds like you're learning a lot about how to make a difference, and you're not letting, the fear of making a mistake, for example, hold you back. That this is all, it sounds like it's all a learning process for everybody involved. Now, I imagine that, it's not just about learning how, my cat is here. It's not just about learning, on an organizational level, how are you effective and how can you serve, but also, I imagine this work, you're probably learning a lot about people as well. So what are some of the most important things that you have learned since working with PeriFerry that a lot of people, individuals like us, can apply in our own daily lives?
I hope I had learned this earlier, but again, I think I was probably too young or too foolish to look at those things. So for me, my assumption was as long as you're doing good work, as long as you're impacting people outside, people inside should feel good. But I think it didn't always work that way. It's important that people feel validated. Even if people outside are validating, and even if people outside are telling them that, hey, thank you, because of you I've gotten the job, it means the world to me. As a leader, as someone who is managing people, you need to ensure that your people obviously feel like validated. Doesn't mean fake compliments, but it means genuine appreciation of people. And it also means that you're showing that validation. How are you showing that validation? It's not going to work only through compliments all the time. It shows through your pay hikes, it shows through your improvement positions. So make your validation seem as openly as possible. It's something that I feel is very, very undervalued. We often think that people who are in it for the cause, who are in it for the work, don't care too much about appreciation, but I feel as humans, all of us do. So that's number one, learning. And number two is really creating a safe environment for people to make mistakes, especially in a startup. Um, I think if you don't create that safe environment, people are going to be so scared of trying out new things, approaching things in a new way. Even in the chain of command, someone may say that this X will work, but only the person on the field knows what exactly works and what doesn't work. So if you don't give them that feeling of, hey, it's okay, you can try things out. Maybe you can consult, or maybe you can try and let me know how it works. Creating that safety net so they feel like I'm open to experimenting, but again in a systematic, in a structural way. So yeah, just give your people, and I see this with really large organizations as well. Even companies like 3M. I had visited their labs once, and I understood that a lot of the innovation that came in their lab actually came from mid-level junior employees, because they were given the resources to make mistakes, and they were also given the time to say, hey, you can spend 2 hours per day to try out your own things. So that's extremely important if you want to really drive a great and inclusive workplace.
This is, thank you so much for everything. This is really food for thought, and I'm sure that our viewers are getting a lot out of this. This is a very enlightening conversation. You and the PeriFerry organization do such courageous and life-changing work I know this is not an easy space all the time to be in, but I truly admire you to continually to show up for people and to help change lives for the better. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences with us and with our audience. We wish you genuinely the very best. Is there anything that our audience can do to help you further your work?
Definitely. I think I would have a huge list, right, because I'm on this interview. I'm just going to restrict to probably one or two things. Um, so, firstly, if you're looking at, making any sort of a difference, sometimes all we need is just a little bit of your time. So, organizations like mine, PeriFerry, there are a lot more. There's Transgender India, there's Solidarity Foundation. So many of them who just need your time to invest on some of our work. And volunteering is always open. Internships are always open. We'd be happy to have folks from different backgrounds coming in supporting us in our work. So you can always do that. And second thing is to really talk about this in your organization. I genuinely hope that you don't keep this conversation or anything that you learned from this only to yourself. Even if you can take it back to your family, or even if you can just share the link of this video to your colleagues, that would be amazing. Square Circle has invested a lot of time and effort into this, and their work is genuinely empowering people like me and others to share their stories as well. So really hope you can spread the word, because it may reach people who can make an impact.
Awesome. And is the when it comes to the volunteer and volunteering your time opportunity, is that tied to specifically in Chennai, or can anyone anywhere in the world help as well?
Yeah. It can work out of anywhere in the world. We've started developing a lot of our training programs online for the community. So we're looking for people who can support those programs, run those programs, create those programs. So not just that, and a lot of other tech and non-tech things that we're doing online. So you can be from anywhere in this world, as long as you can commit a little bit of your time and you have skills that we need, where we can make a good match.
Perfect. Thank you.
Neelam, I just want to say this has been such an enlightening and amazing conversation. Thank you for being a role model, not just to the community there, but to us as well. I think I'm leaving this conversation a changed person, because I think working in this space, you feel like you've heard it all, and like you said, you probably know it all, but that's changed for me and for us today. So we really appreciate the time you gave to us. We wish you the very best. Please stay safe and healthy.
Yes, thank you so much, Neelam.
Thank you so much.
Honor to chat with you.
Thank you.